The world ended in a single lifetime. Around the year 1200 BC, civilization was a vast shining network of kingdoms. Hattusa, the Hittite capital, Mycenae in Greece, ships crossing the Great Green Sea, ships laden with precious cargo, scribes in Ugarit writing on clay tablets. Trade deals recorded, royal decrees recorded, a man born in a peaceful city, he watches his son grow. He cannot imagine his grandson seeing only ruins. Life seemed complex, life seemed interconnected, life seemed enduring. Palaces of Crete, palaces on mainland Greece, granaries and jars stacked with grain, massive jars of oil, Egyptian pharaohs commanding immense resources, temples being built, statues commissioned. In Anatolia, the Hittites rivaled Egypt, control of the Levant, the land bridge between continents, kings exchanging letters, calling each other brother, arranged royal marriages. Interconnectedness made them rich. Within 50 years, the system collapsed. Major cities across the eastern Mediterranean were destroyed, many destroyed violently, grand palaces burned to the ground, bustling ports abandoned. The complex web of trade vanished. The skill of writing was lost for generations. The lights went out across the civilized world. This was not a slow decline, it was a sudden, should the late Bronze Age collapse. Imagine a trader in Ugarit's port. He watches ships from Cyprus with heavy copper ingots. Other ships bringing tin, perhaps from Afghanistan. He sees fine Mycenaean pottery. He sees ivory from Egypt. He feels connected to a large, prosperous world full of opportunity. He doesn't know the royal letters are full of growing panic. He doesn't know a storm is coming that he cannot see. No single event caused this widespread destruction. Instead, a series of crises hit the Bronze Age world at the same time, creating a perfect storm of collapse. One of the most famous agents of this destruction was a mysterious group of invaders. Egyptian records call them the Sea Peoples. These were not a single nation, but a confederation of different tribes who moved by land and sea. They came with their families in carts and on ships, looking not just for plunder, but for a new place to live. They were a wave of desperate migrants and fierce warriors crashing against the shores of the established kingdoms. The attacks of the Sea Peoples were devastating. They sacked coastal cities and fought major battles against the Hittites and the Egyptians. A clay tablet found at Ugarit contains a desperate last letter from its king. He writes to the king of Cyprus, reporting that enemy ships are burning his towns. While the Sea Peoples were a major factor, they were likely a symptom of a deeper problem. People do not leave their homes and risk everything unless they are driven by powerful forces, such as hunger and fear. And, at the same time, the climate was changing. Scientific evidence from lake sediments and ancient tree rings shows a period of prolonged drought struck the region around 1200 BC. Less rain meant lower river levels and failed harvests. For civilizations dependent on large-scale agriculture, this was a catastrophe. Famine spread across the land. A Hittite queen wrote to the Egyptian pharaoh begging for shipments of grain to keep her people from starving. When food runs out, social order breaks down. People abandon their cities to search for sustenance, and governments lose their authority. The drought weakened the great empires from within, making them fragile targets for outside attackers. This period also saw a shift in military technology. For centuries, the elite armies of the great kings had fought with expensive bronze weapons and chariots. Bronze is an alloy made by mixing copper with a small but crucial amount of tin. But a new metal was appearing. Iron. Iron ore is much more common than tin, and while harder to work, it could be used to make effective weapons. New types of infantry armed with long swords and javelins could challenge the chariot armies that had dominated the battlefield for so long. This change in warfare may have given, smaller, more mobile groups an advantage over the large, rigid armies of the old empires. The entire economy of the Bronze Age depended on international trade. It was the system that moved essential goods across vast distances, connecting kingdoms in a web of mutual reliance. The most critical of these goods was tin. Copper was relatively plentiful, with major mines on the island of Cyprus. But tin was incredibly rare. To make the bronze needed for tools, armor, and weapons, every kingdom needed a steady supply of tin, which had to be imported from very far away, likely from mines in modern day Afghanistan. The trade routes were the arteries of civilization, and tin was the lifeblood flowing through them. When this intricate trade network began to fail, the consequences were dire. The disruption could have started in whereas perhaps raids by the sea peoples made the sea lanes too dangerous for merchant ships. Perhaps political instability along the overland routes cut off the supply from the distant mines. Whatever the cause, the flows of tin de trickle to wilt. Without tin, kingdoms could not produce new bronze. Armies could not equip their soldiers with weapons and armor. Farmers could not get new tools to work their fields. The engine of the Bronze Age economy seized up, and the military power of the great kings crumbled. The interconnectedness that had created such wealth now spread the danger like a contagion. Each kingdom depended on others for something essential. The aftermath of the collapse was a new darker age. The grand palaces were left as silent ruins, their painted walls blackened by fire. The complex bureaucracies vanished, and with them, the art of writing was forgotten in many places, including Greece. Population levels plummeted. People abandoned the ruins of the great cities and moved to smaller, more isolated villages in the hills. They lived simpler lives, focused on local farming, focused on defense. The international world of the Bronze Age kings was replaced by a fragmented landscape of small, impoverished communities. It took centuries for civilization to recover. The story of the Bronze Age collapse is a powerful lesson about fragility. It teaches us even the most advanced and seemingly stable civilizations can fall apart with shocking speed. A world that feels permanent can be brought to its knees by a combination of factors.